For my final project for the term, I wanted to talk about a technology that, while around for over a century, has seen several new advances in commercial and artistic light. However, because of its military and law enforcement uses, has become a hot topic in current events. I'm talking about the UAV, short for the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, more commonly known as the drone, known for being able to fly either by remote control or by itself autonomously. First, I wanted to talk briefly about the history of the drone, how it started and where we are today. The idea of the unmanned aircraft is not a new one. In its most primitive and rudimentary form, Austria had loaded 200 balloons with explosives and sent them to land and explode in Venice in 1849. Similarly, balloons were used during the U.S. Civil War for the demolition of explosives, and World Wars I and II upgraded the balloons to planes for the same purposes. It wasn't until the Cold War, mainly the Vietnam War, where unmanned planes were used for surveillance and reconnaissance or incorporating night vision, and were used to identify surface-to-air missiles, as well as drop propaganda pamphlets, among other reasons. 2002 and the Gulf War in Iraq and Afghanistan introduced the true armed drone as we know it today. Pilots from the ground are able to fly these planes remotely to identify and kill enemy targets, minimizing risk to our own forces, which strikes back to their original intent by the Austrians. We then and now have ways to identify and kill the enemy while keeping our own troops safe. Looking into the future, the Pentagon is working to develop drones to function autonomously, without need for ground pilots and the mistakes they make. The Defense Department themselves talk about drones, such as the Predator currently in use, to be equipped with more sophisticated equipment, as well as reducing the size of UAVs so that they can fly through windows and generally be more difficult to see. Lastly, unmanned aircraft has taken off outside the combat theater. Currently, it is in use by law enforcement domestically, and in time, as the technology progresses, companies like Amazon and Domino's look to incorporate drone use and hope to use them to deliver packages, such as a pizza company in Russia is currently doing. In addition, the photographic abilities will be a boon not only for Hollywood and real estate agents, but can also serve to assist farmers for monitoring pests and blight from above. This is only the beginning of the breadth of possible uses in non-combat uses, and between farmer and artist, consumer and citizen, we can all potentially benefit from their existence, just as the soldier currently does on the battlefield. I wanted to focus next on the drone's relationship with society. Drones in their current state as combat tools and weapons have been in use now for over a dozen years. Despite this, we as a society are still trying to catch up not only to reconcile their impact in the combat theater, but also with their new uses domestically. I wanted to first look domestically since this is still very much new for us. Here in our own country, drone use has been divided between commercial and law enforcement use. The one thing both sides have in common is their ability to watch down on unsuspecting citizens, which while fine when on the hunt for criminals, does not sit well with most people who break no laws and expect a right of privacy. Along these lines, society is shaping the technology with legislators in 23 states currently reviewing laws regarding the use of drones, as well as input from the ACLU recommending limiting data retention from aircraft and a ban on any lethal and non-lethal weapons on them. In addition, the FAA controls the laws regarding our airspace and must sign off on any future use. The technology is here, and society is scrambling to figure out what to do with it. Society overseas is a much different matter, however. 13-year-old Pakistani boy Zubair Rehman earlier this year testified before Congress regarding losing his mother and grandmother in drone strikes. They had committed no wrong, or if they had, finding out exactly what these women had done to warrant attack has been impossible, as President Obama and his staff have refused to comment on this or many other counterterrorism measures. In defending Americans, we have changed a society of people such that they must welcome rain and dark skies and fear the blue skies, as that is when the strikes will come. In a report by Columbia Law School entitled The Civilian Impact of Drones, Unexamined Costs, Unanswered Questions, between 500 and 1,000 Pakistanis were killed among the 2,500 to 3,300 total dead as of September 2012. The innocent killed is again just one impact upon society for those overseas. A secondary effect is that the militant groups that the U.S. had targeted attack, torture, and kill the local population it suspects of being informants, and as such, resentment and fear of the local population increases, calling into effectiveness of the drone strikes to begin with. Next, I wanted to touch on a theme covered in our text that is aptly relevant to drone technology. In his paper, Questioning Surveillance and Security, Torin Monahan discusses the balance between liberty and security. In it, Monahan talks about the effect of cameras in London and how they have shown to have no impact on violent crimes, with a more considerable effect on vehicle crimes. Similarly, red light cameras here in the States have shown to have a solid effect in reducing red light runners. The one overall effect that these cameras of London have succeeded in helping, however, is to help find the perpetrators of crime, again similarly to those here in the States. In our own country, we currently have a little over 300 drones flying, and that is likely to increase to an estimated 30,000 by the year 2020. Like the cameras in London, drones were recently used by law enforcement to help identify and spot 4 suspects who had fled their car in North Dakota to hide in nearby cornfields. The drones are able to cover an area overhead that would require much more manpower with the included risk if they had to search the fields themselves. Likewise, Austin police were able to use drones to search a remotely located property for drugs and weapons without fears of police helicopters being shot down. Besides law enforcement, domestic drones have other solid positive uses in our country. As I mentioned earlier, drones may play a huge part in our agricultural future. As drones become cheaper and easier to fly, as the LA Times mentions in a recent article, drones have the potential to be used to increase crop yields by monitoring and dusting crops, tracking potential pests, and locating and dealing with issues of blight. Another use for drones became apparent when the FAA last month granted exemptions to several television and film production studios to allow the use of drones. They've already been used overseas for filmmaking, such as the rooftop chase scenes in the James Bond movie Skyfall. Clearly, there are several positive benefits to drones, but they are not without their negative sides as well. One of the largest, as mentioned earlier, is that armed drones can kill. While we hope to kill a terrorist to protect our own people, I've already discussed that this is not without a huge impact to civilian populations as well. Likewise, for soldiers carrying out these missions, even miles away, sitting at a computer screen with a joystick, the combat effects are very real, and several suffer from a post-traumatic stress disorder, with 4.3% of drone pilots suffering moderate to severe levels, according to an Air Force study. Domestically, as drone use becomes more prevalent, not only a privacy concern is going to be an issue, but law enforcing privacy will be unenforceable until after the damage is done, similar to the recent leaks of celebrity iPhone photos. We will be relying on etiquette and trusting in others that our privacy remains sound rather than a true peace of mind. In summary, drones are going to be playing a large part of our immediate future. For those in Pakistan and Afghanistan, they create fear and distrust while protecting us. And for the drones here, while they have their clear benefits, questions of privacy and liberty will continue, adding a new angle to our ongoing debate between the two. Do we welcome drones? If you ask local police, Hollywood, Amazon, and farmers, you'll certainly get one answer. For families of those killed by drone attacks, the answer will be very different.